Over the last decade, the number of citizens who carry tools of self-preservation has grown, and the average level of readiness among those citizens is evolving fast. More and more everyday people are starting to take responsibility for their own safety, learning skills, carrying tools, building habits. It started simple, a firearm, then a spare magazine, then a light. Each edition reflected a shift in mindset, from carrying just a weapon to carrying the tools needed to face evolving threats and care for what's left in their wake. More so, people are realizing that medical capability belongs in that same equation, because statistically, at least now anyways, as an everyday citizen, you're far more likely to need medical equipment than a firearm. And if you ever do need a firearm, there's a good chance that medical gear will be needed right alongside it. That's where we get the adage I'm sure we've all heard, make holes, plug holes. That mindset has driven many to distill medical equipment down to one piece of gear above all others, the tourniquet. When you need one, you really need one. But somewhere along the way, the tourniquet became the only answer. What started as a life-saving step became a default reaction. And that's where we think it's time to grow again. There's an old saying, when all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. In the context of bleeding control, when the only thing you carry is a tourniquet, every bleed might start to look like it needs one. Recent civilian trauma studies have shown that a large percentage of tourniquet applications happen on wounds that could have been controlled with direct pressure alone. One 11-year review found over 70% of civilian tourniquet uses were non-indicated. That doesn't mean carrying one was wrong. It means the toolkit was limited. We've had users send in stories about our ETQ, but with some use cases, we started to see a pattern. Incidents where the ETQ was applied immediately, and after review, the bleed might have been controlled with pressure. They did the right thing with what they had, but it showed us something. When you only carry a tourniquet, that's the tool you reach for first. We realized that readiness isn't about just having a tool, it's about having the right tool for the problem in front of you. There's danger on both ends. Opting out of carrying a tourniquet entirely is dangerous. Improvised tourniquets rarely work. They often fail to stop arterial bleeding while still cutting off venous return of blood to the heart, effectively accelerating blood loss. If you haven't seen our Tourniquet 101 video, we'll link it below. That video dives into the physiology behind how tourniquets actually work and their limitations, which gives important context for what we're talking about here. We saw that in a recent incident. A father tried to stop a major bleed on his 9-year-old son's arm with a belt and a beach towel. Ultimately, these improvised measures weren't able to provide enough pressure. He lost blood fast before help arrived. Luckily, the response was timely, and responders were able to stop the bleeding using an ETQ. That's why a real, purpose-built tourniquet is non-negotiable. There's always some degree of risk when using a tourniquet. Limb size, tourniquet width, and how long it stays in place, all of those factors influence the health of the limb afterward. That doesn't mean a tourniquet automatically causes damage or loss. Far from it. Modern tourniquets, applied correctly and managed appropriately, save lives every single day. But because there is risk, our goal should be to apply them when they're truly needed. Not reflexively, not out of habit. If bleeding can be controlled with direct pressure or a pressure dressing first, that's often the safer route. The priority is always preserving life to the best of your ability. There are definitive green light indicators where you go straight to a tourniquet and skip pressure entirely. Bright red pulsatile bleeding, which shows clear arterial flow. A traumatic amputation or limb that's mangled beyond recognition. Bleeding that won't stop with firm pressure or gauze and a dressing. Any life-threatening hemorrhage where seconds count and evacuation is delayed. And if you come upon someone who appears to be bleeding from a limb and they've already lost a significant amount of blood, consider a tourniquet if they've been bleeding for an unknown length of time, showing confusion, slowed responses, or fading consciousness. Those are the moments where a tourniquet isn't just the right answer, it's the only answer. But for everything in between, we need more options. One of the challenges with relying solely on tourniquets is that they're only effective on limbs. In civilian settings, where most people aren't wearing body armor, many gunshot wounds occur to the junctional areas, the torso, or trunk, not the arms or legs. A tourniquet can't stop that kind of bleed. Studies of civilian firearm injuries show that a large portion of wounds involve the chest, abdomen, or back, areas where the tourniquets simply can't be applied. And while pressure dressings and hemostatic gauze can effectively control bleeding on limbs and junctional areas, they're not used to pack or seal chest or abdominal wounds. Those regions of the body require different tools and training. Chest seals or occlusive dressings, and airway management, which we'll cover in upcoming videos. This is part of that larger goal, to build the foundation, then add capability piece by piece. Understanding pressure dressings is another step toward that, bridging the gap between direct pressure and tourniquet use, and rounding out the civilian's toolkit. That's why we're introducing what we call the Pressure Pak, a compact, purpose-built pressure dressing system. Now, you may already be familiar with some of these components. It's a curated combination of proven tools: the Slishman Pressure Wrap, 4x4 hemostatic gauze, and our Snakeskin carrier, staged together for rapid deployment and efficient carry. While the Slishman Pressure Wrap itself isn't something we manufacture, what we have built is the ideology behind how it's carried and how each component interacts during use and everyday carry. It's a system designed to bridge the gap between direct pressure and the tourniquet. The way these tools are staged, paired, and deployed is what makes the system what it is. An evolution in how we think about bleeding control and personal readiness. Inside the Pressure Pak, you'll find a Slishman Pressure Wrap, a proven, field-tested device paired with hemostatic 4x4 gauze, all packed inside our Snakeskin carrier. It's gauze impregnated with a chemical compound that accelerates the body's natural clotting processes. When applied directly into or over a wound, it helps blood coagulate faster, even in severe bleeds where the body's normal clotting ability may be overwhelmed. Combined with steady pressure, it can make the difference between a wound that continues to bleed and one that stops. That's why pairing it with a pressure system makes sense. The gauze controls the bleeding at its source, and the wrap sustains that control until definitive care is reached. It's roughly the same size as an ETQ wide, meaning it's compact enough to fit right alongside your tourniquet, but it gives you something different: the ability to apply, focus, sustain pressure almost anywhere on the body. The Snakeskin itself can even be rolled into a pressure bolster, concentrating force exactly where it needs to be. Compact, simple, effective. A pressure dressing system designed to close the gap between direct pressure and a tourniquet. We've spent a lot of time getting to know the Slishman Pressure Wrap, and we've been genuinely impressed by its simplicity and versatility. It's intuitive and adaptable, and designed with real-world use in mind. Its segmented hook and loop system lets you save your progress as you wrap, meaning you can momentarily go hands-off to grab gauze, reposition, or reassess without losing the pressure you've already built. That same feature allows you to fine-tune the amount of pressure applied. If you've wrapped too tightly and start to see the skin below turning pale, cool, or showing signs of restricted blood flow, you can easily back off a section and relieve tension without having to start over. Unlike a tourniquet, it's not meant to fully stop arterial flow. It's meant to maintain steady and controlled pressure that promotes clotting while preserving circulation. It's a smarter, more adaptable way to manage bleeding on limbs or junctional areas when a tourniquet isn't the right tool for the job. Bleeding control isn't binary. In general, we want you to think of it as an escalation. Step 1, glove up, and cover the wound with hemostatic gauze. Apply direct pressure. If bleeding continues, add a pressure dressing to maintain that pressure. If it still bleeds, escalate to a tourniquet. Each layer buys time. Each tool fills a gap. The Slishman Pressure Wrap is versatile, and when combined with our Snakeskin and gauze, it becomes more than just the sum of its parts. It can hold pressure on limbs or junctional areas. It can stabilize sprains or splint minor fractures. And if it happens to be your preferred method of carry, it can even secure additional medical gear to your leg, creating a low-profile ankle IFAK that keeps critical tools close without bulk. The goal isn't to replace your tourniquet. It's to complete your bleeding control system, to fill a space between pressure and tourniquet with intention and reliability. We're not saying don't carry a tourniquet. We're saying carry more than that, because readiness to control bleeding isn't about one answer. It's about expanding the toolkit and capability. Pressure, dressing, tourniquet. 3 layers of capability, ready when you need them. This is the next step in civilian readiness. Smarter tools, stronger citizens.